Well, hello there, and welcome to this year's edition of Imagine 22. My name is Mark Jolicoeur. I'm the pastor of worship and creative arts here at Moncton Wesleyan Church, and I'm joined today by Jess Lewis.
Oh, hi, welcome. I'm Jess. I'm the children's ministry assistant here at Moncton Wesleyan. Very excited to be here and talk about art.
Yeah, and Jess is also one of the part of the lead teams, the whole team of people that have gone into making this year of Imagine happen. And so thankful for you guys and for the effort that you poured into it. So what is Imagine? Well, Imagine is an online, at least this year, it's an online experience where people from not just this church and not even just really from this community, but from around the world, a lot of different kinds of people who have submitted works of art, anything that is creative in many different kinds of fields. We're going to get a chance to see just a sampling of the things that were sent in tonight in this kind of curated walk through of a gallery, if you will. And it's cool. We've been really trying to focus in this last few years on the idea of kind of creating over consumption, of how we can kind of image rather than just kind of idolatrize, right? In this world that's kind of got a lot of things that might be trying to bring us down into passivity. We want to be able to rather instead partner with the spirit of creativity, because we feel like God is a creative God and He's made us to be creative people. So really excited to be able to take a look at some of these things with you. So in just a few moments, we're going to be seeing some of these things, like I said, on screen. We're going to share these together in this program, but there is also some other things that we're not going to look at in this medium for a number of reasons. Sometimes just because it doesn't really work very well to do it with this kind of a format. And so if you go to our Facebook page, actually, which will be no doubt linked, maybe you're watching this on the Facebook page now, I don't know. But if you go to this link, the one that we're going to be putting with this program, you'll be able to go to essentially an online gallery on our Facebook page. And that will have not only the individual entries from what we've taken a look at here together, but also some extra stuff, maybe some poetry, some other visual mediums that just were not a part of this evening's program.
So throughout this evening, you're going to hear some background music playing behind what we're showing. And those were actually songs that were all submitted from artists around our city, from our community. And I think that's pretty cool. So if you're listening, listen to the music, and those are actually submissions to Imagine. Yeah,
not just downloaded kind of from the internet, whatever, as stock music. So one of those people is actually Joshua Maye. He submitted not just music, but some visual art as well. And so he took some photography. Some really, really great stuff. And another was Andre Boulard, who was actually in last year's Imagine as well. I have one of his works of art at home, actually. It was done for me I got it at Christmas time. And he also submitted some background music that he worked on this year, which is kind of like a part of an overall piece. It's like a 60-minute kind kind of a movement essentially
wow.
about peace and stuff. He has a great kind of write-up about the inspiration behind that. And so you can find all that on the gallery as well. But you'll be hearing kind of both of those artists weaving in and out in the background as we look through art this evening. Okay, so the first piece of art that we're going to look at together is actually by a local artist from Moncton, Andy Gill. Andy has decided to give what is a portrait of the Mother Mary. And actually, Andy was in last year's show as well, and he had a portrait of Jesus, which is interesting because if you go, and you can obviously kind of track with his work, if you follow along on the Facebook, there'll be a link to his Instagram page and whatnot. He doesn't typically do a lot of religious art, and we haven't specifically asked for religious submissions, but this is what he's decided to send in, and this is a marvelous piece of work here, isn't it?
It's incredible. It looks very statuesque, I guess, and he did it with Prismacolor pencil crayons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all pencil crayons that he used, and it just looks fantastic on the black background. It just comes across so well.
Yeah, very striking.
Mm-hmm.
So next up, we've got another local artist, Catherine Gilmore, who submitted a couple different pieces. We're only going to take a look at one here right now, but you can see some more on the Facebook page. This is what she described as a mixed media, which, sometimes that kind of can mean a lot of different things, but essentially, you can use paint mixed together with other I saw another one earlier that had like stickers kind of on there, and then you paint it over the stickers. So it's very layered and very textured. So you can kind of see, if you could look at it up close, this would be kind of literally coming off of the page for you.
Right, it's got lots of texture in there, and she said it was also acrylic, so there's acrylic paints in there, and she says that she lets God use her as a vessel. So she sits in front of the canvas, and she just kind of lets God use her to create something that is art in the eye of the beholder. So however you look at this, whatever you see is what you see, and I think it's beautiful. I definitely see a sun in the middle there, and maybe a bit foggy on a foggy day.
Yeah, very vibrant, very vibrant colors. So right now we're going to take a look at kind of one of the musical entries for this evening. Now, I say we're going to look at a musical entry. How do you look at a musical entry? Well, that's part of the thing. If we're going to be looking at it together, then very often we're going to have some sort of a visual component that will be part of it, which we'll see some more of those as we go along. But this one is actually a new song. This is kind of an unreleased song. You might even want to call this a sneak peek or a demo or a preview, I'm not sure, from our own Tia Bailey, sometimes known as 180, who is, no stranger to this church for sure, and has released a lot of music kind of in the broader world. Last year, he was definitely a part of this show with the song It's Complicated, which went on to win some awards locally. It's a very thought-provoking song, and for a time that needed it, probably. And so this song here is hot off the presses, like I said, and it's called My Attack. And so while the song is playing in the background as we're listening to it, what we're going to be seeing is another member of the team here at Imagine. Her name is Grace Caines, and she owns a local dance shop called Dance Creation, where they teach lots of different lessons to both the young and the old. And this is going to be a part of her team. She herself was not in it, but she was a part of the editing team that put it together with a bunch of her dancers as they dance to this song. So here we go. It's kind of a collab, if you will, with Tia Bailey, 180, and Grace Caines from Dance Creation together, My Attack.
Sometimes you just gotta rap, you know what I'm saying? Let's do it. Cause when I plan my attack, when I plan my attack, I doubt that you're ready. We got rhymes like bullets penetrate your zone. Yeah. One time on the MIC. When I plan my attack, I doubt that you're ready. We talking rhymes like bullets penetrate your zone. Let's go. Been known to kill these tracks, y'all stand back. In fact, I stay classic like an old school Cadillac. I used to battle rap back when all these rappers wasn't even allowed to listen. Evolutionary different, not a physician, nope, but stay connected to the healer. Guess I'm something like a neighborhood hope dealer. The flow realer, my mic work is gorilla. Y'all showstoppers can make way for the show killer. I'm from a place where every week there's a tragedy, so please excuse if I don't care about when you're mad at me. I guess it had to be me who stepped up, cause when God was asking who was gonna go, nobody leapt up. Now if you kept up, you can see what type of time I'm on. I'm feeling way too strong to not stand where I was called at. So you can miss me with your blah, 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 rah, rah, rahs and all that. When I plan my Yeah, said when I plan my attack, I doubt. We talking rhymes like bullets, they penetrate your zone. One time on the MIC. Yeah. Said when I plan my attack, I doubt. We talking rhymes like bullets, penetrate your zone. Yeah, one time on the MIC. Y'all take shots, I make them another spitter, getting Instagram props until they insta replace them. You can't break them, I can't ever quit. I'm rocking with that Holy Spirit power, while y'all rhymes is counterfeit. Screaming killer over every track is really whack. Let's take it back. The hard drum beats and backpacks. Somebody spit that lava, somebody clap back. Matter of fact, I really missed that. Peep this crazy thought that I just came across. I used to kill it at 155, then I got big like Van Dross. I got my hands crossed while I'm preparing for future. They talking about me like debating Big and Lil Luther. Oh yeah, we rapping now. Y'all got it twisted. Y'all thinking just cause I'm Christian, I be backing down. Stick around. Ain't ran my last scene yet. I'll let you race me to the board. You be Shaq and I'll be Kenny to get. Cause when I plan my attack, yeah, said when I plan my attack, I doubt. Let you ready. Rhymes like bullets, penetrate your zone. Let's go. One time on the MIC. When I plan my attack, I doubt. Let you ready. Y'all ain't ready. Rhymes like bullets, penetrate your zone. On the MIC. Yeah. Like I said, sometimes you gotta just rap.
So next up, we have some woodworking by Angelica Chase. She has a woodworking business called Sparrow's Design. Right now, she mostly focuses on making rings, but she's also looking to expand that and branch out a little bit. So here's some of her creation. She made these amazing rings. They look fantastic. The textures that she has in there with the wood and the design, I think they're wonderful.
It's incredible to make something so small. I know it's blown up, but it's supposed to fit on your finger. That's pretty wild, eh? And I do like the name Sparrow Designs. She kind of talks about how it's, I think it's from the Bible verse, if the Lord cares for even a sparrow, how much more would he care about you? It's supposed to be the idea of taking something kind of insignificant or small, something like maybe a piece of wood, and turning it into something quite significant in the end.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So we now have a local photographer, quite local to the Moncton area, Donald Lewis, and this is just one photo. If you go on our Facebook page for the gallery, you'll be able to see a number of his entries. This is just absolutely fantastic photo.
Stunning.
Yeah, and one of the things that I absolutely love about this is I ask everybody when they send stuff in, Jess, I go like, what am I looking at? So I don't just mean like what's the content, but like how, because we're very interested in process. I think process is helpful to kind of draw people in. It kind of is part of the story. And so I asked, like, how did this happen? How did you get this photo? And he kind of looped me in on part of the process, but he also looped me into the fact that he has a kind of detailed blog online about this process. And so in the background right now, I'm sure you're probably seeing part of that, but also it's linked again in the actual Facebook page. You can take a look at time lapse of how this happened. So he, like these stars, like the myriad stars you can see in the background were there, even though you and I might, photography is notoriously difficult to capture this with. You can see it with your naked eye sometimes, but the camera effort to pick it up was an incredibly difficult process. But he was able to use Photoshop and a few other things to not add, but to subtract, if you will, some of the noise that's blocking this, which I think is pretty symbolic for how we move through life, right? Sometimes it's not about adding, but about subtracting to find what's going on underneath. So next up, we're going to have an interview conversation between one of the other members of the Imagine team, John Hurd, who's a local who's grown up here in the Moncton area and has recently moved back to town. He's a writer himself, and he interviewed actually Mike McNeil, who is a professor at Kingswood University and has been a professor at Kingswood University for longer than you would even think imaginable. He's been there for a long time. And he's also kind of has a history in the arts, and you'll hear a little bit about that as we go. But they talk about painting and they talk about writing, and it's pretty interesting. You'll get a chance to see some of his work as well. So here we go.
You know, there's like a jack of all trades. I'm kind of like a jack of all arts. Like I do nothing super well, but I do a little bit of everything. So the way that I kind of rekindled like an interest in art, I was really into art when I was in high school, but I've always been interested in like the visual arts. And during COVID, at the beginning of COVID, when we were all kind of like super locked down, I was like, I'm going to go insane unless I develop some hobbies. And so I just, it was around Easter, and Colleen asked me to like do a mural of Jesus like on our front window for Easter. And so I did that, and then that just got me, and then I just started on this, like, I just went down into the basement to keep myself busy each day. I looked up different images of Jesus on the internet, and so I ended up with like 100 portraits of Jesus in kind of in black and white, like monochromatic, you know, kind of. How about you? Like, because your book kind of like, I saw it like appearing online, and I was like, oh, like the title or your angle didn't surprise me at all.
It's just a grouping of all the things that I've been writing the past, 10, 12 years on Facebook.
Like all your thoughts and yeah.
It's not stream of consciousness, but it's some of them are just, it's like I said, like it says on the book, it's essays, paragraphs, and some just proverbs that have just come to me over the last little bit.
Is it like talking to you? Is it like conversational, or is it like you use the same voice?
From some of the feedback I get, like there's no holding back. So you're writing, would you say the 2 books, have they come out, like, are they in your speaking style, or have you adjusted to get them on paper?
Well, I think
someone hear your voice on the page if they want.
Yeah, I think so, because the 2 books are like books of stories, of like real life stories, of faith stories. So they were kind of like crafted as verbal stories first, almost, and then just like put down. But I literally have to communicate. Like I start to go a little crazy if I don't have some way to communicate or somebody to communicate with. And so it's almost like I have to communicate what I'm thinking and feeling. I don't have a choice about it. Like I have to find a way for that to get out. So I don't know if you feel the same way, but
I do. Some days I get antsy.
I don't have a perfectionist bone in my body, so I'm kind of like I'm a weird hybrid of things. I don't tend to get bogged down in details at all, so I need to get people to proofread for me and stuff, because I'm just like kind of rolling through.
I'm the opposite. I'm Mr. Editor.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go over like 8 drafts before I put something out.
How are people responding to your book? Like who are the people that go, oh, that's a really cool idea, and like, have you got any negative responses?
I haven't gotten any negative responses. Some of them have said, like, I read your book, it was good, and right. that change of tone, you're like, yeah. And it depends, like, so it's not everyone's cup of tea. I say that straight out of the book.
Right. Yeah, so you're a bit of a contrarian, right? You like to kind of, if the crowd's going this way, you were like, well, what about over here?
So many people, including myself, kind of walked through life for 10 to 15 years and just were swallowing whatever was given to them. And that's not a really mature way of looking at things. Religion aside, I mean, just life in general, there's so many things that are fed to us about people and concepts and things like that. So I'm not saying the book goes that deep. It's not that deep, but there's enough things out there that you need to think critically about. And I try to do that a little bit more. I'm just like picking at scabs. That's a raw way to say it, but it's just, there's certain things that I want people to just, have you really thought about the way you feel about that? Or, have you really, given it your due diligence or you just haven't made your mind up?
So next up, we're going to be hearing a song by Ryan Gillies. He is from the Moncton area. He produced this song. He wrote it and composed it himself, so it's an original. And while the song's playing, we're going to be looking at a video of Katie Doron making a painting. So she's a local artist, and we're going to be looking at that.
She's also a member of the Imagine team. And so we actually had a conversation earlier on, and you can still see it. It's available online. And I don't know what ended up getting titled, but it's basically Art and Money. And so Katie and I and a worship pastor from St. John, Jay Muir, have a conversation about that and just kind of the economics of art and a few other things. And so if you're interested, that's on the Imagine page as well. And we take a closer look at that painting in that interview. And it's funny when you actually get a bit of a reveal on what this painting is. You're going to think, I wonder why they would put that song together with this painting. And it's a bit of an art. It's an art in juxtaposition. It's when you take two things together and you slam them together, like sweet and salty, or peanut butter and chocolate. Those aren't exactly opposites, but when you combine those things together, it really kind of changes the flavor. And so I think you have a really interesting kind of juxtaposition at work with these two, with the visual and the audio here. So
Awesome.
let's take a look.
Sometimes get you on the wrong foot. To kick back in gear, start from square one. Stay close to me. You're my refuge and my space. Somewhere I can feel free, a place where I can just be me. Stay close to me. You're my refuge and my space. Somewhere I can feel free, a place where I can just be me.
So this next painting was done by Jessica White, and it is on a wood slab. She did the universe here. So it's the world with the galaxy around it, and it's done on wood. So she based it on the Hillsong song called So Will I. That's the title of her painting. So it's kind of to remind us that all of creation is made to worship God. So all of the universe and the world and everything in it is made to worship God. And then she used wood as kind of a juxtaposition that all the small things in creation were also made to worship the Lord.
Next up, we have another local artist, Mel Roberts, who's been kind of experimenting the last few years and has said that she's been moving a lot of stuff kind of online. And so this is one that she submitted. We have a couple other examples, I think, that you can see on the Facebook page, but here's one to take a look at today. Little dog. I like the kind of the blue. I like the blue background on it. It's kind of
I like the fade it does. I also enjoy the shading in the fur and the highlights there. It's well done.
Now we're going to take a look at one piece of work from Ji Hyang Ryu, who is another local artist who is actually quite prolific, has been putting out an awful lot of stuff recently. And there was a couple different examples that she sent, but we definitely wanted to highlight this one in particular, which is just an absolutely striking piece of art.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
So well done. The details, the colors, just fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm not 100% certain on the process behind it, so I don't necessarily want to be quoted on it, but I believe there's some sort of a alcoholic process that was done here, which is you can kind of, I've seen it done before, but not with such precision. So like I've seen really kind of striking, interesting images, but nothing that's been like this, deliberate. Had an opportunity last week to get caught up with another friend of ours from the Moncton area, Connor Zacharias, who is currently on staff at a church out in the Vancouver area, doing creative arts with that particular church in a kind of unique capacity. And so he's just going to kind of briefly bring us up to speed on the kind of work he's been doing and give us a bit of a window into some of the art that he's been producing over the last few years.
So I work at Village Church in Surrey, British Columbia. I am the music producer, which is my job title, but that means a different thing quite often. But basically, I help execute the music at Village Church. And so anytime a worship leader needs like a special arrangement for something or original songs or something like that, or like one-off things for events, that'll be my responsibility to produce, which has been sweet because over the last couple of years that's become a majority of the songs that we do are like original arrangements or just songs that people in our team have written or staff members have written, something like that. So it's been super cool. One that I did more recently was like All Creatures Ever God and Cann, trying to understand what the song is saying, but also like what the purpose of it is in the service. Like, are we trying to make All Creatures a like EDM dance banger, or is it like, is this going to be like a reflective moment? And like that's obviously like crazy informative and in like the production that you choose. That's probably the main goal, rather than like having an album out or something, is just like creating a culture of people who are comfortable bringing their babies forward and being like, hey, I think the church could use this, and like I think I have something to say and that I could bless people, and sort of like being invited into more of a collaborative thing. Everyone has potential to be an incredible writer and an incredible creative person, and we want to develop that in people, because I feel like that's like the purest form of discipleship, is like seeing gifts in people and giving them opportunities to grow that. Like normally in music, you kind of have to take what you can get when you're starting out in your first few years. But I'm really lucky where I just get to write and work with cool people and projects that I'm really passionate about. So I do a lot of like co-writing with other people and production for like smaller bands and stuff like that around the area. But it doesn't have to be like a ton. It can just be whatever I have, whatever I'm excited about, or whatever I have the capacity for at the time. I'm in like working on an indie rock project right now called Sends It Out. Yeah, so this is two people. It's me and a drummer friend of mine. We started out writing worship music, actually, like very regularly, and then we were like, what happens when we don't do that? And like very cheesy, like overly happy, like indie rock came out. So I've been really interested in storytelling more recently. The bar of like a good song and a song that is worth writing for me is one that is like either telling a great story and like crafting a narrative in the listener's head, or something personal enough to create a connection between you and the listener. Because I think that's what brings people back to music, or to the same music, is a like beautiful story or a personal connection.
So next up, we have a series of photos that were taken by Shane Grant, and he is the pastor of communications here at Moncton Wesleyan. So we'll take a look at these shots that he got. He took a series of photos at this location, and I think this one in particular is just incredibly well shot. I love the where the sun is and the way it kind of blurs out the bridge in the back, but doesn't hide it quite as much as you would expect. And it's just a stunning picture for sure.
And next up, we have a piece of digital art actually created by a friend of mine and a local artist, Jeff Summers. And this is of the Man in Black, Johnny Cash. So if you can kind of take a look and you see there's tension. There's tension in Johnny Cash, and you can kind of see that this kind of comes through in the way that Jeff approached the sketch. There's some gaps. There's some darkness. It leaves a little bit to the imagination, which I think Johnny Cash always seemed to leave a little bit to our imagination. This is also an opportunity to kind of highlight the fact that Jeff was a part of a panel discussion that we had, which is available as well on the Imagine Facebook page, and probably a few other places as well. And it was about kind of what is art, which is kind of one of these, maybe nebulous sounding conversations, but maybe kind of pertinent when you're having an art exhibit. You want to kind of know, what is art, because what makes it into an art exhibit and what doesn't, in some respects, really comes down to what art is. So if that's of any interest whatsoever to you, then I'd encourage you to maybe check that conversation out. And so next up, we're actually going to hear a song from another friend of ours, actually Matt Brower, who has recently relocated to the Moncton area after living in the States for the last 20 plus years. And this song is called Oceans. He says that it's written essentially for a social media generation, what it is to grow up in an era where your identity is so wrapped up in what other people think of you and how that's kind of constantly on display.
Oh, will you come and find me? I'm all alone in an army of restless souls. Nobody knows. It might be hard to decipher a cry for help from a life you're bound to see. It's headed so easy. What do you say when you know you're wrong, and all you believed and you built your life upon is falling apart? All alone in the dark, peace like a river is surrounding me, when my whole world is a raging sea. Only your light is what my soul has found, lost on the ocean. Washed away by desire, I search for you through the fire when all my dreams are vanishing. Wide awake, the illusion of discontent only proving that I can't seem to make sense of anything. What do you do when you can't hold on, and all you believed and you built your life upon is falling apart? All alone in the dark, peace like a river is surrounding me when my whole world is a raging sea. Only your light is what my soul has found, lost on the ocean. Lost on the ocean.
Next up, we have a photo taken by Emily Hare Photography. So this is one photo in a series of photos that are called Thoughts of Light and Hope. So this is just one of them, and I think it's just very thought-provoking when you look at it. The hand, the light, it's just an incredibly well-taken photo.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a series of different kinds of images that are, I guess, we've used the word a few times already, but kind of juxtaposing kind of darkness and light, or hope and hopelessness, which seems to be a bit of a theme that we're running into.
Definitely. And this series in particular, these photos have the subtitle of COVID-19. So it's light and hope amidst this pandemic that we've been living in for so long.
Yeah, no bones about it. Not everybody likes to hear those words, but obviously when we look back on this era, that's going to be something that it's going to be a kind of a watermark in the season. And so to have some art that is specifically created for it feels like it might almost be a good idea. Yeah, and speaking of these kind of trying times, Joan Dimmick, who is a local artist and kind of describes herself as an amateur, a hobbyist oil painter, but obviously I think a very, very good one. She submitted this one that is a great blue heron. And kind of talks about how for her, she finds it inspiring because the heron is kind of noble and strong and has the ability to kind of be rising above it all, which is something that she views as probably some good qualities for us to focus on in these difficult times.
So now we have another painting of wildlife. This time it is a pair of lions. So this is by Ruth Smith. She's a Moncton resident, and she calls this piece Safe in My Father's Arms. And it's just absolutely beautiful. It's acrylic on canvas, and you can really see just the protectiveness of the father lion here with the cub. I think it's just very well done, and the way that the title brings out exactly what this piece means, I think is very, very powerful.
That's true. And next up, we have another piece actually from somebody on the Imagine team, James Cann. He's given us a poem. The poem is called Conqueror. It's really cool the way it's done. He actually created a video to go along with it and did that himself as well. It's visually very striking. And with a title like Conqueror, you might think that it's kind of like a rally the troops
Victory.
and humans can do anything and the triumph of man over everything. But in some respects, actually, he said part of the motivation is just kind of understanding the kind of arrogance in some respects that humanity has when it kind of goes into the broader world. And he referenced even just some experiences in his own life where he's done some things that at the end of the day, you would think, man, like, I can do anything. And yet in those moments, whether that's on the top of a mountain or whether that's staring in the face of a lion who might be hungry, you realize that even though you might be a conqueror, sometimes you're only conquering by the skin of your teeth.
Those are very humbling experiences, that's for sure.
For sure. Well, here we go. This poem's called Conqueror.
When the mountains grant safe passage, allowing him to travel through, or seas, forgiving his trespasses, let him sail to lands anew. And man, the other side emerging, still with rhythm in his chest, his soul and body not diverging, queries me with proud behest. What am I, if not a conqueror? Tell me, I do implore. But I say, what peculiar moniker, when you've survived and nothing more? What if the bear was not in slumber, and let you pass while still asleep, but rather chose to fill its hunger, your child and widow left to weep? You cannot walk upon the water, but like the fish are forced to swim, acting more as ocean fodder, and swallowed up upon a whim. Does the sun abide your timing? Do you tell it when to rise, or at your word cease its shining? Are you a master of the skies? So when your pride inside is burning, know your triumphs aren't your own. After journeys, when returning, thank God for his mercy shown. And give some credit where you ought to, the clemency of beasts and waves. For they're the ones that opted not to send you to an early grave.
Well, Miss Jess, where are we right now? What are we looking at here?
So right now we are in front of the Kids Creative Corner. So this is all art that was submitted by our Kids World kids over the past few weeks.
That's cool. We wanted to have something, right? We wanted to have something for Imagine that was kind of just for the kids. We want to encourage creativity at a young age and give them an outlet to be able to do that kind of thing, right?
Definitely. So we got all kinds of submissions, different art forms here. We've got some painting, a Lego car. We have some drawings, and this is incredible.
That is, I like that beat. Now tell me about the you and I both make an appearance here at the end. You're wearing what was just a very sunny yellow dress, which is really great. And I'm wearing possibly the skinniest jeans that I have ever worn in my life. I have worn some skinny jeans. Yeah, nice rips. I keep very relevant. That's from Miss Leah Owen. So thanks, Leah, for keeping us youthful. This is great stuff, guys. Really appreciate the work, and looking forward to seeing maybe what Imagine 23 will bring from our Kids Corner.
Looking forward to it.
So as we already alluded to at the beginning, there was a lot of different kinds of submissions that came in, a lot of different mediums, and one of them that was kind of surprising to me last year also came back this year, which was sewing. And so there's lots of different kinds of sewing, but Cindy Picard in particular showed us one that's kind of called long arm quilting. And so it's this kind of like just massive piece of machinery that is used in a freestyle way to create these really intricate designs. And so there's not a pattern that you're following. It happens really kind of organically. And she kind of describes it sometimes as it's almost kind of like you're painting with the piece of machinery. And so it's really quite fascinating. And so she had created this work of art that we're taking a look at right now, this quilt. And so I found that to be a really kind of fascinating and interesting interesting piece of work that was submitted. And then Cindy's daughter-in-law actually submitted something for the first time this year, Brianna Picard. And so this is a piece of work that she did herself, kind of designed it. And it's obviously kind of made to mimic what would look a lot like stained glass window. But it's a process called paper piecing, which Cindy tried to explain to me. And frankly, I found difficult to understand, but it sounded really complicated, which to me, it probably bodes well for it being a work of art. But yeah, this is kind of, it's quite beautiful. I will get a close-up of it, obviously, so you can see it a little bit better. But from what I can tell, it's quite an interesting piece that would not be something that I would in any way be able to do.
No, me neither. Very well done.
Yeah, very cool.
So now we have another dance piece. It's incredibly made by Jayleanne Lee. She's a local resident of Moncton. And it's just incredibly shot. The shots that they have in this video, it's all outside, outdoors, and the dancing is just gorgeous and beautiful.
It is.
And it's just a marvel to watch.
Yeah, you're going to really like this. And the music is actually by some local people as well, Emma Blair and Noah Benoit. So it's a really locally made product that you'll be able to enjoy. So here we go.
Be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought by day or by night, waking or sleeping, my treasure thou art. Be thou my wisdom and thou my true word. I ever with thee and thou with me, Lord. Thou my Redeemer, my love thou hast won. Thou in my dwelling and I with thee one. Great God of heaven, my victory won. Now I reach heaven's joys, oh bright heaven's sun. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, oh ruler of all.
So next up, we actually have my submission to Imagine. So this was done on an iPad with the app Procreate. It was made with the acrylic brushes though, so that's mostly what it was made with. It is a lioness out in the rain. It has a bit of a story behind it, which is that I personally have struggled with depression for a little while in my life. So this story came to mind of a lion kind of walking through the rain, head down, trudging through mud, and then being tormented by a shadow. And then the lioness kind of breaks free of that, and she is hopeful and raises her head to await a rising sun that is coming out through the rain. That's where the inspiration came from for this one.
Thanks for sharing that, Jess. Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's striking to me that this is able to be done with an iPad. It kind of blows my mind. And that's a great opportunity to mention that you and Alex recorded a demo of how to use Procreate, which is not an ad for Procreate, but it was a cool tutorial about how to be able to use kind of digital art in this way. So if you're at all interested in it, whether you're an adult or a young person and you just kind of want to expand your range and figure out how to use this kind of art, you can check out that tutorial on our Imagine page. And speaking of Procreate, here's a piece that was actually submitted by I was going to say a local artist, but I mean he's from this neck of the woods and yet currently lives in Japan and has been living in Japan for years as a missionary, Robin White. And this is part of a series that he's doing with Drawbridge Creations, which which is a company that just launched, drawbridgecreations.com. And they're seeking, as you can see here, to kind of create an inroad into the world of manga, which I confess I know precious little about. But actually, there's a great kind of a story on the drawbridgecreations.com website, which we'll be linking to here, and you can see in the online gallery, which is just a little bit of their vision and how they're planning to kind of interact with that whole scene. It's a huge culture over in Japan, and is actually kind of obviously been bleeding into parts of the world as well. Yeah, and so this is essentially a manga style of Jesus, kind of Sermon on the Mount style teaching, and so it's pretty cool.
So our next piece is also a digital piece of art, and it's by Braylon Schultz. So she says that Job is her favorite book of the Bible. So this was inspired by Job 41 in particular, and it's Leviathan here. And then we have Job down in the corner, very small, facing, very tiny, and he's facing Leviathan as is described in that book. It's just very humbling, and the way that Leviathan is described is definitely terrifying, and God even has control over Leviathan, and it's Job in the face of this creature.
I love seeing how themes have emerged kind of like accidentally. So like we have like kind of these animal themes that in some respects can make you feel kind of free and grounded. And then we have this also kind of nature as something that kind of puts you in your place and kind of humbles you. The two sides of how people are experiencing quite possibly the last couple of years, right?
And it was not planned. No. Incredible.
It's organic. And so one of the last things we're going to take a look at here is actually a project, if you will, from Braylon's mom, Teresa Schultz. And so we'll hear a little bit about the Espoir Initiative and how she's using art also as a means of hope. Espoir, right?
8 years ago, next month, I started my journey with Haiti. And very quickly, very shortly after I started working in Haiti, I met some artists, and we made a very quick connection. I didn't really intend to start bringing their work back to Moncton, but they desperately needed help. And so we established an agreement, I'll say, that when I would bring their art back, that they would get a return of 60% of whatever the sale price was, and 40% would go to the ministry that I've begun in Haiti. That 40% is used to help children go to school. That was really my focus. But the art, as it turned out, really draws attention to the cause, and the cause being the kids getting to school. The art has really become a great way of breaking boundaries and building bridges between myself and Haitians, because it's a vehicle to acquaint people with what's happening there, especially these days. The art can be very politically and emotionally charged at times. Some of the artists like to make a statement with the art. So some of the art you'll see starving children in it, and that's deliberate on the part of that artist to kind of give people a moment to reflect on what their circumstances are. So the art is amazing. The art is by 3 different artists, Michelo Volmar, Ludivine Languerrier, and Jerome Falto. Those are the 3 that I'm actively working with right now. Their art now really is reflective of their circumstances today. But not all the art is making a political statement necessarily. Some of it is just happy, and they want to focus on the good and the beauty. You'll see water painted a lot. So they like to paint musicians, music, especially drums. Drums are a big part of their culture, so that's in a lot of the art. So abstracts, I'm seeing more of those from the 3 artists that I have. So the work is varied, and each one of them has their own style and their own preference. As I said earlier, 60% of the sale price goes to the artist, and 40% goes into one community in Haiti. I say one community, it's branched off a few times from that community, but mainly one community where the needs are great. The children just are not going to school. A mother generally earns about $2 a day, and I'm saying a mother because it's generally just the mothers that are raising the children. She may have 2 or 3 or 4 children. children, earning $2 a day. So she earns about $600 a year. School is about $400 a year. So the mother has a choice. Do I feed my child or do I send my child to school? Generally, they feed their child. So that 40% is a huge, huge benefit. It's a huge help to helping these kids go to school. So I say 40% helps the kids go to school, but it has gone beyond that in the past few years. It's helping address food needs and healthcare needs as well. So the 60-40 breakdown, first of all, that was not proposed by me. When I started working with these artists, that was their suggestion. I probably would have gone for 70-30 because they're struggling already. But as it turns out, that 60% they're earning on that sale price is about 200% more than what they could sell it for if they were selling it in Haiti. A lot of people are very curious about that word espoir. And if any of you speak French, you know the French word for hope is espoir, E-S-P-O-I-R. Creole is espoir, it means the same thing. It's called the Espoir Initiative. So that really is what this is all about, providing hope. So if you're interested in supporting the ministry or buying any of the art that you've seen, you can go to my Facebook page called The Espoir Initiative, and I'm very easy to get a hold of, so you can contact me, scroll through, you'll see lots and lots of art available to support this ministry.
Well, I can't believe another year has come and gone. Jess, man, a lot of just absolutely fantastic stuff. Thank you so much to everybody who submitted. And to those of you who were thinking about it but didn't get around to it, hey, Imagine 23 is just around the corner. So start thinking now, start allowing God to kind of give you some ideas and maybe allow yourself to be moved a little bit from passivity kind of into partnership. And maybe, you know, like what could I do? You know, how could I maybe be a little bit more of a contributor over a consumer over the coming year? Even just from within our team, the Imagine team over the last year, we have seen people who have gotten married, and we have seen people who have had children, just absolutely beautiful things. We've also seen people who have lost loved ones, like the dearest of loved ones to them. We've seen people who have lost, you know, their careers. Like that's just even within the people that we know. And so this has been such a transformative time and such a difficult time in so many ways. And yet I am so grateful to be a part of a community that has not chosen to allow it to just get mowed over, you know, but has been able to use some of those hard times to be able to create, well, kind of like the Emily Hare photography stuff, right? To look for moments of light in the darkness. Definitely. And as a church, that's certainly something that we hope that you're all able to understand, is not just that there is some kind of light, but that there is a true and deep and lasting light available for you. So with that, we wish you a good day, and we hope to see you. Maybe if you're watching this in real time, maybe we'll even see you tomorrow, Sunday, for the service. We've got some tricks up our sleeve for that service as well. But either way, we hope that you'll spread this around to people and that you have a really blessed year.
Thank you for watching.